Hi, it's Mrs. Nice again. All right, continuing with chapter 26, section 3, Achievements of the Aztecs. The Aztecs adapted many ideas from earlier groups, including their calendars and temple pyramids. But the Aztecs improved on these ideas and made them their own. Science and technology. One of the Aztecs' most remarkable technological achievements was the construction of their island city, Tenochtitlan. The Aztecs enlarged the area of the city by creating artificial islands called chinampas. Today, flower farmers in Xochimilco, near Mexico City, still use chinampas. Tourists enjoy taking boat trips to see these floating gardens. I know I pronounced this wrong, I'm sorry. However, we learned about chinampas earlier in the year when we talked about the Aztecs, so hopefully that part's review. But that's the little islands they created by sinking tree stumps and sticks and rocks into the lake and then adding mud and things like that, and then they could garden on top of it. Just as impressive as the chinampas were the 3 causeways or roads that connected Tenochtitlan to the mainland. The causeways were often crowded with people traveling in and out of the capital. During the rainy season, when the waters of the lake rose, the causeways also served as dikes. So you guys remember how the Aztecs built their capital in the middle of Lake Texcoco? So they built these 3 roads to connect with the mainland. Okay, and that was a pretty impressive technological feat for that time. To manage time, the Aztecs adapted the Mayan solar and sacred calendars. The 365-day solar calendar was especially useful for farming since it tracked the seasons. Priests used the sacred 260-day calendar to predict events and to determine lucky days for such things as planting crops and going to war. So the Aztecs they borrowed from the Mayans essentially, and they used their same calendar but for their own purposes. And we could see this picture here. This is adapted from the Mayan calendar. This is the sunstone calendar, and it shows the face of the Aztec sun god. It includes a 365-day agricultural calendar and a 260-day sacred calendar. So this is pretty iconic or really well-known imagery, the sunstone, for the Aztec culture right here. One of the most famous Aztec artifacts is a calendar called the sunstone, which you just saw above. Dedicated to the god of the sun, this beautifully carved stone is nearly 12 feet wide and weighs almost 25 tons. The center shows the face of the sun god. Today, the sunstone is a well-known symbol of Mexico. You could actually buy souvenir versions of this that are obviously smaller. You can't bring home a 12-foot souvenir, but this is something that you might see if you visit Mexico. Okay, going on to Aztec art and architecture. The Aztecs practiced a number of arts, including poetry, music, dance, and sculpture. Poets wrote verses to sing the praises of the gods, to tell stories, and to celebrate the natural world. Poetry was highly valued. Aztec poets sung their poems or recited them to music. Sometimes actors performed them, creating a dramatic show with dialogue or speaking and costumes. Music and dance were important forms of Aztec ceremonies and holidays. People dressed up for these special occasions. Women wore beautiful blouses over their skirts. Men painted their faces, greased their hair, and wore feathered headdresses. The dancers formed large circles and moved to the beat of drums and the sound of rattle bells. The dances had religious meaning, and the dancers had to perform every step correctly. Sometimes thousands of people danced at one time. Even the emperor occasionally joined in, so dance and music were also important. The Aztecs were also gifted painters and sculptors. Painters used brilliant colors to create scenes showing gods and religious ceremonies. Sculptors fashioned stone statues and relief sculptures on temple walls. They also carved small, lifelike figures of people and animals from rock and semi-precious stones, such as jade. In technical craft and beauty, their work surpassed that of earlier Mesoamerican cultures. In architecture, the Aztecs are best remembered today for their massive stone temples. The Aztecs were unique in building double stairways like those of the Great Temple in Tenochtitlan. The staircases led to two temples, one for the sun god and one for the god of rain. Smaller pyramids nearby had their own temples where sacrificial fires burned before huge statues of the gods. In this picture, we could see this woman performs a traditional dance in Mexico City where Aztec dancers celebrated over 600 years ago. All right, Aztec language and writing. Spoken language was raised to an art in Aztec society. Almost any occasion called for dramatic and often flowery speeches. The rich vocabulary of the Aztec language, Nahuatl, allowed speakers to create new words and describe abstract concepts. The Aztec system of writing used both glyphs, so remember when we learned about the Mayans, glyphs can represent sounds, words, and hieroglyphics. So the Aztec system of writing used both glyphs and pictographs. Pictographs are a drawing that stands for a word, phrase, or name. A pictograph is a drawing that depicts a word, phrase, or name rather than symbolizes it. For example, the Aztec pictograph for war was a symbol of a shield and a club. The Aztecs did not have enough pictographs and glyphs to express everything that could be spoken in their language. Instead, scribes used writing to list data or to outline events. Priests used these writings to spark their memories when relating stories from the past. So this is kind of interesting, you guys. The Aztecs used glyphs and pictographs, but they didn't have enough glyphs and pictographs to be able to describe everything in their language. So instead, scribes would really use their writing system to make like lists or outline things, and then it was up to priests to almost use those as an outline or as notes, and then they would have to recall things from memory to be able to tell people the full story of what happened in the past. Okay, this is it for this section. Remember to go to your part of the slides to fill out two things from each part of this section of the notes about the Aztecs. I will do the last section of the reading in another video.